there's Craig. And that means that we have officially begun. This is Soup City Sins Season 8, Episode 2. Don't worry. When we last left our coterie, after their exchange of information with Eric, the one of the many leaders of the Children of the Dusk, their conversation with Forcepulus, and the realization that there are forces at work. There are people who are attempting to cheat the system and worse, and they have become the subjects of their focus. So all the tricks of the trade are being pulled out. All of the many ways to cut corners, escape notice, and otherwise harry and annoy the coterie to aggravation are on the table. In an attempt to stave off the most pernicious and subtle of these attacks, the coterie have decided to find what is their definition of happiness. They have been forsworn to avoid holy places, as the spirits and spells at work on them are only magnified when visiting the places of cooperative consensus of the reality that they are in. Those prayers said in the dark for $1,000,000 and this health of loved ones and the faith involved is a steroidal aphrodisiac to what has befallen coterie. In pursuit of happiness, Lucio suggested that they retire for a short time to the Djibouti Safari Lounge. It is an African restaurant, nightclub, bar, all rolled into one, where he has on occasion met Monica for private assignations. It is a place of calm, place of peace. And as tangled as Lucio has become in the world, both living and the shadow lands, it is a place of solitude. There's an easy spirit of enjoyment. There's an easy spirit of welcome. There's an easy presence of the absence of the cold, vacuum-like touch of the mystical, and that's esoteric. So arriving, the cashier, waitress, and one of two of the only staff that Lucio has ever seen in presence greets them and begins escorting them to a table just off the main floor. There is a ska song playing in the background, and there's 4 or 5 couples on the dance floor cutting a rug. There are several other tables, but waitress, cashier, and clearly front-facing portion of the staff leads them to the table where Lucio has on several occasions met Juanica. The table gives the coterie the opportunity to view the dance floor, the cashier station, the front door, as well as the kitchen and most of the establishment, and also secludes them in a seeming shadow of gloom, and is just dark enough where you can make out what's there, but just light enough to obfuscate any real detail work. So they are sitting occluded, much like Stalker did when he first met the hobbits, just out of the way to view and interact upon choice. Having settled in, the waitress sits down several menus and walks away as if she knows that they won't order. As the music plays and the dancers dance and the world slides as it ever does into the future, what is on the coterie's minds, knowing that they are under attack, but not in any provable sort of way?
Well, I think it's time to start to start trying to get the base out of his organization, because otherwise he can engulf us all. Is there any particular business that we can work on? Social clubs?
Is this something you're asking all of us? Like in character?
Yep.
Okay, Lucio responds, Clyde, I'm sorry, Bill, out of character, I do apologize. Bill, we came here to relax, to escape that. There's a time for business talk. We can have that later. For now, enjoy the peace.
All right. He starts twiddling with his thumbs.
One of Forcipulus's many tossed off bon mots from the previous moment was it's easy for him. He enjoyed and longed for life. So all facets of it made seizing his happiness an easy thing. For you, he did say that it may be considerably more difficult. After all, what makes the simulacrum of life that is your existence happy? What moments of enjoyment were there for you? Something that inspired those feelings, those ghosts of feelings.
Well, since we're all here, and we have at least some privacy, and perhaps a bit of protection from whatever's cursing us, why don't we try and help each other figure out what exactly makes us happy? What exactly we can pursue so that we don't get swallowed up by despair?
Well, I don't know about you, but the only thing that does it for me lately is the blood.
Well, I mean, that's kind of a given. That's like the end-all, be-all of our existence now, but that's kind of the point, is to not be that for a while, to step away from that and be something else.
Now, Clyde, I'm sorry, I did it again. Bill, for the brief time that I've known you, I get the impression that you are a man of business, that you are someone who really likes the art of the deal and, well, making a profit. Am I wrong?
Well, it's just a means to an end, but yeah.
A means to an end for what?
Oh, I'm one of those social climbers. Right now I'm here, and I want to be here. Do you feel me?
I see. So you want to elevate your position then? And is that also a means to an end, or is that in itself the end to live a better life? Or unlife, I should say.
In the few decades I've been this, I know that security, eternal life is not what they make it out to be, right? You have to struggle, and you need to carve out a space for yourself, otherwise you are cannon fodder. It feels like we are cannon fodder, or at least I am. So I don't need to be a prince. I just need to have a place of my own, and in that position, secure myself from the sun and have enough blood to keep me going. I'm a simple man.
A simple man with simple needs. I can respect that.
A simple man of simple needs. That explains quite a bit, but doesn't really quite answer anything. It does spark thoughts and the idea of, in the time that you all have been together, since the founding of the shelter till now, while you individually have not seized on any of your claim or put any of the believed strengths to any use for personal gains, the shelter has gone through a series of citywide gossip mongering in their direction. They've gone from nobodies to less nobodies, more almost somebodies, to actual full-fledged hounds. They are the executors of the sheriff's aims and the prince's will. They are the only kindred of their age range who have been given, before the bulk of the entirety of the kindred court domain. That comes with its own issues, namely now the old axiom of to be somebody, you got to beat somebody. You guys are actually officially somebodies. And those gathered in that night had already begun the first steps toward either kissing ass or kicking ass. The favors were asked, the offers extended, the obsequiousness that comes from this is our new champ and the pedestal that we need to place him on had already begun. You all are more than the average street level at this point, as far as people, kindred of the city, are concerned. You are beings of note, which means people are watching. People are paying attention while they watch, looking for ways to become part of your good graces, or how to make sure that your good graces meet bad ends to establish themselves. And while you are attempting to take your mind away from any sort of business, the very real fact of that saunters through the front door. One of the many things that had been happening in the last few days and the last few weeks were the disappearance of several gang leaders, disappearances of several people who operate in your areas. Cesar, who everyone calls Birdie, walks through the door. He is one of the street lieutenants. He's a high-ranking, not quite OG, but not a new buck either. And he walks in and stops at the cashier, and there's some small exchange, and she looks towards you all, then back to him, and then she disappears into the kitchen.
Out of character, I'm assuming we all know this, or notice this?
Yes.
Okay.
Do you know that movie, the one that the guy always sits facing the door? Feels like that.
That is extremely non-specific.
Or else somebody's gonna come cosplay.
It's funny that when we try to get away from trouble, somehow it seems to walk through the door and find us. That looks like trouble, but we also can't allow it to go on if it's something important. So what do we want to do?
Well, since we are in Kumbaya mode, perhaps we should leave.
I mean, we could theoretically just ignore it for now and enjoy ourselves for the moment. Or we can try and figure out what's going on.
Or we can invite him over for dinner.
There's a thought.
That is an incredible thought as you all mull over the ramifications of what your actions may or may not be. The cashier appears from round the corner carrying a tray, and you all had not ordered anything. She, in fact, seemed to know that you all may not be ordering anything and gave you all time. However, when she appears from the kitchen, tray in hand, the steaming soups and stews on her tray, causing a small whiff of pleasant odoriferousness to permeate the area, she crouches holding the tray as only a skilled waitress could, one-handed, and begins stacking the table. You see definitely a stew of some sort. It's reddish in color, clearly having a lot of either paprika or actually chili pepper in it. Can't quite discern which at this point. But then there's a plate of soft, flat breads. There's mashed and steamed tubers of some sort. You're not sure whether they're yams or sweet potatoes or regular potatoes mixed together. It just looks buttery and light. There's a pea dish of some sort. And then this mug-sized serving dish of some sort with looks like ground meat of some sort piled high with greens, peppers, and You're not sure what else that they use it to season in. There's another tray with this stew-like mush in the center, ringed with bits of flatbread and sauces and what looks like spinach or a pesto-ish sort of option. There are these red-covered, fatty-looking bits and bobs together. Then there's just a slew of different dishes, all piled high. Some with eggs, most with seemingly beans or a considerable amount of paprika or curry. You're not sure which of the two. And she sits them on the table. I'm sorry to interrupt, but the gentleman, he wanted you to have a sampling of all the Ethiopian dishes.
Why?
I did not ask. It is not my business. He and his associates are, how do you say, thugs, gangsters of some sort. He does this periodically with people he is trying to either impress or intimidate. But it is not our concern. As long as he pays.
See, he wanted to be invited for dinner.
Bill says, "What the hell?" I'm guessing I need to activate Flush of Light.
You can. And as you are considering whether you're going to do so, she begins naming the dishes. There's Dorlwot, Unkula Fafar, there is Dulad, there's Shiro, there's Tihilo, there is Dabo Fafar, there's Fatira, this is Spris, this is Asa, this is Pasta Bouillonniere, and this is my favorite, this is Tiara Siga. Enjoy.
Bill starts going in, and I'm guessing his tongue is on fire.
No, it is not on fire. Ethiopian food does have a bit of spice to it, but it is most assuredly palatable. If you were actually living in human, there may be some other developments, because a good deal of it is on the heavier side. Is the reason why the portions aren't as large as if you were to go to a tapas restaurant, but they are extraordinarily spiced, but no heat. There's lots of mid-range, very palatable, very heavy, protein-rich food because, well, for lack of better word, it is one of those situations where dining is about the celebration of life, and who you dine with is to guarantee that you continue living. So the food is designed to provide long-lasting, protein-rich energy for whatever may come and however it may come. It has clearly been prepared with a practiced hand and is both savory and a little hint of sweetness with a good deal of stick-to-itness that most people only ascribe to chilies and chowders.
Oh,
And she smiles as Bill digs in.
This is good.
Thank you very much. I'm glad you enjoy. I will tell the cook you enjoyed. And she moves back away around the corner and back into the kitchen to come out to the cashier stand. Where the gentleman is standing with a wad of bills clearly obtained through less than bank-like means, as the bills, even from this distance, have a grayish tone to them. They're a little crinkled around the edges. They're not quite pressed flat or newly minted. These bills have been around the block several times.
She says, go ahead.
Hestia is gonna stand, be right back, and she puts a little extra swing in them hips. You know how she do. And walks over to the guy, looks him up and down. Hey, big spender, you want to come eat with us?
Normally, Chica, I would be at your table with no hesitation. You dining with that asshole? say this might be your last meal. If I were you, I'd find somebody else to hang with, you know?
Which asshole?
The asshole in the cowboy hat.
Oh, you know Bill.
Bill, that's his name, huh?
Yeah. Are you scared of Bill? Because, I mean, I'd protect you.
You got jokes, huh? Look.
No, I'm serious.
Tell that asshole to keep himself out of my business. If I see him, I hear about him fucking up my boys again, I'm gonna come here and it's gonna be a real serious thing. Okay?
That's sexy. Big tough guy.
What is you, fucking loca?
I just don't think Bill's all that worried about it. Just saying. I know him pretty good, but...
Yeah, he don't need to be worried about it. But remember, I can get to him before he even finds where I live.
You sure about that?
Oh, yeah. You let him know, okay? You be good.
Bet. And then...
Go ahead.
Hestia turns and kind of like gives Dizzy the thumbs up. Like she thinks she's doing like super good. And then turns back to really quick.
And him being the neighborhood tough leaves. Dizzy, as you were saying?
I don't even want to know what's going on over there.
So when he says he kind of walks back over, like, you know, completely cool about it. So our new friend really doesn't like you, Bill. They want to kill you. Wonder what happened there.
Oh. Do you think this has real Ethiopian in it? That's good.
No, you silly. But he said this is probably your last meal and that you're not going to be able to find him before he finds you. So if he sees you again, it's on and popping, basically.
There's some neighborhood talks, you know. They think they rule the place. I asked them to leave me alone. I may have had some wars with them, but I was very clear that I wanted to negotiate first.
Bill, did you have words or fists with them? There's a very big difference.
No. You know, when you graduate to businessman, you need to be careful how you administrate pain. I had wars with them. They tried to jump me. We have some wars. I asked them to tell me where their boss lives. Haven't heard from them. I'm guessing that's one of them.
I'm guessing those were the wrong words you had with him.
Well, you see, there were like 5 of them. I may or may not have squeezed them a little bit with, you know, the gifts. They just scamper away, which was my plan all along, so as to not start something that they don't want to finish. Out of character, how does below count work?
What do you mean?
I have the choice. Bloodhound, which
yes, it's towards finding specific resonances, and when hunting, you're able to size up potential victims very easily.
But do you need to taste the blood, or it's more like a feeling or a smell?
It's a combination of feeling, a smell, and low-level social cycle awareness. You know the telltale signs of someone who is extraordinarily depressed, someone who's extraordinarily happy. You know the sort of carriage in being a person who is, for lack of a better word, a pervert, someone who lets their freak flag fly with such regularity. It is the only flag they have. You know by observation and careful stalking where these people congregate, associate, and how to track and trace them out.
Yeah. I tell them, well, basically, I just wanted to open a place of business, and they tried to jump me. Sir, nothing more than words. They are OPT and stuff.
Well, I'm not saying you're in the wrong. I'm just saying that clearly you had the wrong words because it has agitated them further.
Well, what kind of want me to tell somebody that's trying to make me his speech? Like literally. Offer to pay and all.
The moment that Bill mentions that aspect or that viewpoint on things, would anyone involved or having dealt with the insidious streets, i.e. having a decent enough streetwise or a decent enough etiquette, please roll intelligence and streetwise or intelligence and etiquette.
Streetwise, would a proficiency with, or a specialty with black market have anything?
Yes, because you need to know how to behave to not be seen as an undercover cop or worse.
I've only got one dot in each, so.
Yeesh.
The awareness and understanding of the larger trends and rites of passage would be within Hesh's purview.
The exact same rule, huh?
Okay, well now, and well. Alright, so we go from 2 to a shitload. Not a buttload. That's an actual measurement, but a shitload. So, this was a declaration, not of war, but of every intention to make sure that Bill doesn't live past the night. It is clear from them appearing so quickly after your walk here that along the way that you all were caught by someone's sight and clicked their radar and calls were made. This was, if Bill was the average thug, if Bill was the average low-level criminal member, this would be the last meal he actually had. If he is seen leaving the front, you are almost sure that there's some stolen vehicle out front with 2 or 4 people inside waiting for Bill to show up to perforate his being with lead projectiles. The boss man coming in and buying the meal is their attempt to be classy. They've clearly watched too many movies. That sort of declaration hasn't been a popular thing, at least since the late 80s. And Lucio, having grown up not far from this area and operated in and out of this area due to his living days avocation, he can almost pick out what color car it's going to be, how far from the opening they are, as well as more than likely what sort of firearm they'll be using. He's also, knowing that they are Latin souls from this area, is aware that there's probably somebody on their cell phone at the end of the alley watching the back door just in case. And there's a very real, very clear-cut threat in the meal, and it's designed to slow Bill down long enough for them to get completely in place. They should be operational by the time they are bossed by Birdie walking out the door.
Right, so if I know anything about this kind of operation, Bill, it's that they've got someone watching the back door. So, and they're most certainly arming and manning the front door. So, those 2 ways of escape for you are out of the question.
Well, something got stuck between my teeth. I'm fancying some Ethiopian. Do you? We can just shoot them as slurpees.
Have you been shot before, Bill?
Couple times.
It still hurts. Like, it won't kill you because nothing inside matters anymore, but it still hurts like a motherfucker.
Well, that's if they can shoot you.
Conflict is supposed to be something we're avoiding. not indulging in.
Well, I mean, to be fair, it's not his fault that they've chosen tonight to kill him.
This is true.
Once again, a situation is thrust upon us.
I mean, there is always the possibility of sneaking him out.
Or I can try to shout at them and a little bit more. No, but last time they just scamper away.
I'm just saying, there are sewers attached to every building.
Bill's nose wrinkles. Like, well, why don't we try that like the plan C? Yeah?
I do have a bag full of makeup. If we could come up with a dress and a wig, we got a plan.
I'll be down with that. Yeah, why not?
As you all discussed, the cashier is suddenly there at the table. I just thought that I would stop by and see how is everything. Everything is good, yes?
Yeah, delicious.
Excellent.
Everything would be better, sweetie, with a round full of beers.
Of course. Is there a particular variety you like?
I like the one that comes in the brown bottle.
She smirks and moves back around the corner into the kitchen as she done so many times so far this. There is a egress on the front side, but she rarely uses it, but it's there all the same. Yes, she always enters and exits through the kitchen. As she comes back, she has another small tray with a beer for each of you. It is a St. George Stout. It comes in a nice, relatively large brown bottle. Each of course has been opened as per Chicago law, but she sits them down on the table, mostly in front of Dizzy and Bill. They're close enough to be grabbed by Hestia and Lucio, but it's almost as if, no, that couldn't be it. And then she turns around and pauses. I am so glad that you all are enjoying things. If you should need anything, feel free to call. And she heads back into the kitchen.
You don't have a wig? Oh, she's gone.
So, do you think that was a subtle hint to say, I will help you get out of this mess?
Yeah, why not? As I say, usually a couple of stern words it's enough for them to scamper.
I'm guessing we're all going to have to leave together, because if the boss man saw all of us sitting together, if we all leave through the front door and Bill's not there, that's probably not going to end well for us.
You don't know that. Maybe these guys are really stupid.
We wouldn't be that lucky.
Hey, Diz, do you remember that when that guy came at us and was like all roaring and stuff, and you just turn on the switch? Perhaps you can distract him, and we can just keep on walking.
I mean, I could make a distraction. I could get someone else to make a distraction, probably. But, I mean, are we there yet?
Who samples the beer?
Dizzy will.
Well, I'm guessing Billy's in eating mode, so he'll take a sweet.
All right. There is a bite initially on the tongue when sampling the first bit of the stout, and it immediately becomes this creamy, very full moment. It is as if you are drinking a relatively alcoholic milkshake. There's not the teeth-jarring brain freeze of eating ice cream or chugging anything down extraordinarily cold, but it feels that creamy, that rich on the tongue. In combination with the food, it is the absolute perfect balance of all of those flavors, forming a strange umami that should not exist coming from such a indigenous cuisine. It's very protein rich and very of the earth, so the salt and the acid doesn't initially strike. The hint of spice is always there, but it's not hot. The combination of the two causes... Bill, would you be so kind as to roll your resolve and composure -2? Dizzy, would you be so kind as to roll your resolve and -1? Your target number is 3 or better. As the taste of it fills the mouth and you swallow and you're taking away from this moment, away from the insistent pressures being forced on you, away from this, there's nothing that's really important, but thoughts of the past begin to bombard and pervade Dizzy's immediate mental view. If she was forced at gunpoint to lose everything that mattered to her or relive one of her most recent happiest moments, what would be Dizzy's first grasp to relive, to experience again for the first time? No.
That was to lose everything or to relive her happiest moment?
Yep.
Sadly, given her mental state, it would probably be the lose everything.
And the same question, Bill. There was the all or nothing. You have to decide. Which would it lose everything or relive the happiest moment? What would be his first grab? His first grab?
Probably his happiest moment.
What would be his happiest moment?
When he was still alive, when he was rolling around with Wild West show and still having a wife, kind of stability, a brief moment of joy.
Now, those happiest moments, would they trigger tears of joy, or would they trigger a fugue state where he'd live those moments at the speed of thought?
Being a Toreador, probably a few.
That being the case, as both Dizzy watches 1 second at a time of the last few years of this decade and some of the few years before begin to fade, she's reaching out for memories, for moments that should be there, but she finds a blank. It's literally her in a white room that should be filled to the ceiling as far as the eye can behold, books of memories and moments that she shared, and coming away with nothing. They've all faded away. There's no bookshelves, there's no books, there's no Polaroids, there's nothing in this corner of the mind castle where everything should be. And Bill, with a 1,000 yards empty stare into the darkness around them, his jaw growing more slack. How would that strike Lucio and Hester, watching as there's a panic of loss that dances just beneath Dizzy's gaze, and she's not able to focus on anything in this particular moment. And Bill looking to all the world as if he has found the only true opiate effective on Kindred.
I thought poisons don't work on us now. As I say that, turning to Hestia. Are they drugged?
Maybe not drugged, maybe more bespelled, but Hestia is going to take the bottle of alcohol and sniff very carefully, put her finger in and rub it across her fingers, really examine it like she would any substance in her lab, trying to get a feeling of what this might be. And she's also going to sniff the food, because I know only Bill ate the food, but they're both acting weird, so she's going to, again, test the beer and then sniff the food as well to be sure.
It's not extraordinarily viscous. It's not extraordinarily anything except for a nice, good stout. The sweetness inherent is there when Hestia begins sniffing at it. She smells the hops and barley and the malt that's in it, but there's nothing that stands out except for it beer. Fairly well-crafted beer by the simple fact that even to the touch, it still holds a little bit of the coolness, a little bit of the effervescence of it, the bubbles inherent, but not much more.
With that being the case, I'm going to shift to Sensei and Scene because there's something else.
Oh, that being the case, would you be so kind as to wits plus awareness? And as Hestia is physically examining what's been imbibed, what's going through Lucio's mind?
A small amount of panic as he realizes that his plan for a peaceful excursion has been very quickly dashed before his very eyes. And right now, Lucio's main thought is, okay, how do we survive this? Because as far as he knows, Dizzy and Bill have both been drugged, and Hestia is now about to go into a trance. So right now he's trying to keep vigilant, see if there's any way that we can get out of this easily, and he's definitely going to be keeping an eye outside for if those men decide to start, or for if the gangsters decide to start moving it.
Okay. So wits and either streetwise or wits and larceny for Lucio. And Hestia, peering into the other world, her eyes glazy over and glossing, looking as if she suddenly developed two amber-tinged cataracts over her eyes. Hestia stares into the world around them. She is not anywhere near prepared for the absence. Every building in Chicago possesses a mirrored shadow version of itself in the Deadlands, in the Shadowlands, in the world of the Oblivion on the other side. It comes with its own darkly glittering light. It comes with its own obverse of light that permeates. Staring into that world, glimpsing the near spaces of that world, the near umbra of that world, the near dreaming of that world, the places where it touches our world and overlaps and sometimes takes over, is a natural occurrence. She's expecting to and has braced herself to experience the horrors that cause the nearly dearly departed, the shadow shambling steps of spirits, lesser and greater, the baleful fires of souls being destroyed. None of those, literally as if looking into space. There are, beyond the building, you can see the stars and shapes of shambling ghosts. Beyond the building, staring in those middle spaces, there is the world around it. But here, in this space, is the absence of all that. You see the auras of the people dancing. You see the DJ's glittering, sparkling aura as he is clearly excited and involved in music. But there is nothing else. The only beings, the only spaces, the only thing at work here are the people here. And it is so jarring that it leaves Hestia speechless for a moment. The usual traffic of the spirit stuff is sorely lacking.
Snapping out of it, she looks at Lucio. There's nothing here. Like, I can see auras and I can see the ghosts outside, but in the building there is nothing. It's like a wasteland. It's the weirdest thing. It's like so quiet, and there's no nexus. There's no tug of like the stuff that we have at the shelter. It's nothing like that. It is completely freaking quiet, and that's freaking me out just a little bit. But we need to focus.
I was gonna say that's exactly why I brought us here. Because it's so devoid of any supernatural activity, to say the least. And Lucio looks outside. I'd prefer to keep it free of spirits, if we can.
Oh, keeping it free of spirits is the least of your concerns in a particular moment, because you realize that they don't expect the food to take nearly as long. You heard doors closing, and one round has passed. You hear doors closing, and there's a quiet that jungle animals and prey animals observe. When the predators are near, the prey animals hide or flee the area. And that quiet is what's outside.
It's definitely time to get out of here. You get Bill, I'll get Dizzy. We're going into the kitchen. We need to get her to help us out of here.
Sounds good to me. So Dusty stands, and it's weird not leaving any money, even though they didn't really eat much of anything, and they're still trying to figure out what the heck is going on with Bill and Dizzy. But she's going to put like a $20 bill down on the table, even though their meal was already paid for, and very carefully loop her arm through Bill's and pull him along.
Bill, you've never been this close to Hestia before. The scent of her plants forming some strange natural parfum that is both at once woodsy and surprisingly fresh filters through to him. And how would that meld and merge with having lived the most joyous moments of his breathing days and find himself back here, the beer no longer in his hand, and the taste of the food feeling as if someone's placed flowers for him?
Well, since we are both very cold, he probably kind of shivers a little bit, and the touch makes him come back to reality. He gives a grin to a snicker to Hestia. Says, "Oh, well, that was agreeable. Perhaps some other day. Now, Miss Hestia, what can I do for you?"
You can keep moving because we're getting the hell out of here.
He kind of springs to his feet and starts walking.
Having experienced and tasted the beer and the food, it is a very real, momentary, difficult choice on leaving the others' beers at the table. It's for a brief moment, for a lifetime of moments, all at once. Bill was able to be alive. He was able to enjoy the feel of sun on his skin, the sound as the train rolled slowly around the bend, clacking along. He was able to enjoy riding his pony across a prepared portion of the plains. He was able to know and truly experience the fear and adrenaline that came from putting on a show where he could fail. He was able to be, for a brief second, for a lifetime, human again. And he is hard pressed to leave the beer on the table.
We are definitely coming back here. Looks at the server and grins at her. And everything was lovely, miss, and we just have to go.
I'm so glad you enjoyed. She smiles and her cheeks alight. She has dimples, and there's a certain joyful mischief dancing in the glint of her eyes. As you all make it into the kitchen, she doesn't bother to stop you, and the cook looks over her shoulder, still mid-preparation, and she's tossing what looks like jollof rice, but you know that it's not. And Dizzy, you're back. You are standing in the kitchen being bombarded by the sense of well-prepared meals that normally would take a staff of at least 12 being prepared by one single man as he bounces from between the 3 different stoves, tossing what looks like jollof rice, moving plates of beef and plating up with a speed that should not be, because after all, nothing is impossible.
Kirsty is definitely filing all the, because she's never been here really before, or that she wasn't, when they were here last, she wasn't paying enough attention to it for it to stick. So she is definitely paying attention now and kind of taking it all.
Dizzy, having experienced the absence of everything, where does that place her?
A little confused, probably a little irritated. I'm sure it's. I'm not sure whether she would equate that to having been drugged. I'm sure it's not the first time that it's happened.
Oh, drugged would be the first guess, but the realization that she didn't scent anything and no drugs work on Kindred almost immediately rules it out. The opportunity to experience nothing. While for some it is a torture, for others it is as close to heaven as they can be. It is as close to heaven as they can be. The absence of consideration, the absence of grief, of guilt, the absence of all of those memories with those feelings bombarding the insides of your skull, all swept away nice and clean. The static emptiness of nothing.
What the fuck just happened? Where are we? What are we doing? What the hell is going on?
You drank beer and started going 1,000-yard stare. We are currently in the kitchen trying to escape. The Latin Souls gang is about to come in because they're tired of waiting for Bill. And we're trying to find a way out without having to get in a fight.
The
Does that
cook
about cover it? Did I miss anything?
The cook stops as Lucio explains all of that. It's the first time that he's been still since you've all been in the kitchen looking. He hasn't bothered to stop you from moving or the normal interjection of people moving past or through his kitchen as he's preparing food. But as Lucio explains that, he stops.
You got something to add there, Wolfgang?
Yes. There is no violence here. There's no danger here. This is a safe space for everyone to enjoy their evening. Anyone who brings trouble here will have hell to pay in this life and the next. If that is the only thing preventing you from enjoying my meal, I will handle this. Sit and enjoy. And he moves to the cashier. They exchange a few words back and forth. No one actually speaks Ethiopian or Eritrean, dude.
Nope.
They nod, and as he leaves the kitchen, there's a hush, as if you've seen a white lion, or if you've seen a white buffalo, or if you've seen a liger up close and personal, or you've had the opportunity to hold a virginal koala, one who was not possessed with pity. As if you witnessed something that only comes along once in a generation. At least that's how everyone on the dance floor and the tables he passes looks. It is clear that everyone has gotten accustomed to him being in the kitchen, to him not interacting, to him not doing anything more than preparing far more food than one person should be able to. And he exits out the front door. It takes exactly 72 seconds from him stepping outside to him stepping back inside. And he immediately moves to the hand washing sink taking paper towels and drying his hands. He looks to you all again. You are not sitting, you are not eating. Is it too spicy for you, or is it not spicy enough?
No, it was delicious. The beer is excellent. And you're a superb host.
He inclines his head and thanks and begins immediately hopping back in. He manages to catch the rice before it begins to scald and begins moving back through his protein, circling back around to his soups and his stews. In order with such speed and alacrity, you are sure that he is either the child of Mercury or the reincarnation of Wolfgang Puck on roller skates.
Well, Lucio,
I think we should sit down.
seems that you got your wish. Just a relaxing meal.
Hopefully it stays that way. So, shall we?
Yeah, why not? You really should try the food.
There's a hesitancy in you, Dizzy, with the understanding that what you experience may be easily obtainable. It is the white noise keeping the world out. It is the moments between moments, that emptiness. And you, Bill, the very real idea of reliving that life over is tantalizing.
Do I need to roll self-control or something?
Only if you're attempting to resist, considering that you know what options lay ahead of you, considering you know what happiness lies right there, though fleeting and not of your own control, it is right there. What would you do to experience those moments again? What would you not do? That's the question.
Well, being a toreador, he's probably very tempted, but he's not stupid at the same time, and he thinks that keeping his cool right now it's the best way. He definitely plans to go back at a different time. Come back at a different time.
And as you all sit down at the table, Dizzy, those same thoughts are bouncing around. You've experienced what it's like to go with what's there. Is it something that immediately makes Dizzy recoil, or is it something that she reach towards? That semblance of peace, that semblance of absence, it comes at a cost, but so does everything. And as a cost is not actually there.
Now is not a time that she feels that she can relinquish control. So,
and Hestia, knowing that in truth it is just food, knowing that it is just drink, and it has had such an immediate effect, as well as watching the cook who has prepared things, where does that place Hestia?
Puzzled, and she doesn't like it. There's part of her, that scientific part of her, that wants to eat the food and drink the beer just to see what was going on with it. And there's also that part of her that is like, if I do this and I don't snap out of it in time, we're screwed. They're warring with each other right now.
Does Lucio see this conflict on Hestia's face by any chance?
Having known her as long as he has, most assuredly, as well as watching Hestia look at the food and look at the drink and consider what that may mean, there's a very real part of him that realizes that Juanica comes here fairly often.
Hess, I have a feeling that you're having second thoughts about this place. Seeing as half of us have already partaken of the food, and I know that you're curious about this, would you like for me to be the designated driver, so to speak, and abstain from this, or would you rather be that role?
Well, I'm the scientist, so I guess I need to keep an eye and watch you guys, see what all happens. So yeah, I think you're gonna have to eat the food.
Why don't you let me be the driver and you can both eat? Because you know that if something happens, I can shut it right down.
That is a good point. I could go first if you prefer, Hestia.
No, let's do it.
All right. Bottoms up.
And as Lucio and Hestia tuck into the meal, take a sip of beer, you both roll resolve plus composure -2. Lucio, it is as good as it has ever been. You did sample when Juanica was here before. There's a certain hominess that should not be possible, and it sets your tongue aflame with different flavors, and it washes over you. However, the sense of joy and fugue state doesn't happen. Looking at Hestia, you're wondering what it is that you're missing. Looking at having experienced what Bill and Dizzy went through, you are immediately aware as to there is something there that's just beyond your easy grasp. And with that, we will take a quick 10 minutes and be back here exactly at the turn of the hour. See you guys in a few short moments. Testing.
Yep.
Here.
Yep.
Excellent. With Bill and Diz back, is anyone else back?
I'm here.
Excellent. So we'll pick up with Lucio while we wait for Hesh to return. The lack of a decision, the lack of a choice being made, the lack of a fugue falling over him causes a certain amount of WTF that you had transpired for Lucio. Save there is a commonality between Dizzy and Bill and Juanica. Would you be so kind as to roll your wits and persuasion to see if it immediately occurs to Lucio, or if you have any ideas specifically for Lucio as to what those commonalities may be?
Did you say wits and persuasion?
Yes.
Dice pool of 5. A.
His detective's mind quickly appraises and apprises the situation. Dizzy has been experiencing their loss of family. Bill doesn't have a family. He has the pursuit of money and status. Juanica had been looking for a cause to dedicate himself of an official capacity to right the wrongs he saw happening to his chosen people. Hestia has been grieving the loss of Simone and what was, as well as her own sire. Lucio, his family, his reason for continuing is still here. His sister is in college. His all but sister, also in college. They are advocates and freedom fighters of a sort. They refuse to accept the system as it is. His mother and father and sperm donor are still here. Those issues, that sense of loss isn't there. And it falls into play as a hypothesis that seems all too true, all too valid. And strangely enough, in his rampant investigations on the north side, in his living with the indigent for the last few years, he's picked up a few things, a few thoughts, and one of which that stands out a little bit more. There are certain wives' tales and certain traditions that each culture carries with itself. The few Eritrean and Ethiopian that he's actually bothered to meet, those who speak Amharic fluently, were born there, or otherwise speak it in their own home, they go out of their way to disguise their wealth. They go out of their way to disguise their happiness. They go out of their way to make sure that none are exactly where they stand. They, in honoring their traditions, don't speak about how many people are in their household. Now, you may know that it's just a nuclear family, a mother, a child, or a mother and a child. But they go out of their way to never say how many are there. They'll say, my parent, which typically frustrates investigations. Okay, which parent? How many people are at your house? What are you talking about? And those details are rarely forthcoming. And when they are, it's as if in the telling, they get angry, they get a little perturbed, they're a little upset with having revealed those details of their happiness, as if something or someone could come along and snatch them. Asher, you back?
Yeah, sorry, it disconnected and I was missing part of it, and I got back for the last part where you were explaining about how they don't like to talk about their happiness because they're worried about somebody stealing it. But I missed the part leading up to that because it disconnected, and I could see you talking, which is why I jumped out and came back.
Okay. Well, there's a very pressing matter for Hestia. Taking a sip of the beer to wet her tongue, and taking a sip of the bread and a little bit of the stew, Hestia is almost immediately swept away, and she knows there's a choice she must make. If she had to, with everything on the line, would she choose the absence of everything, or would she choose to live the happiest moments of her time?
She would want to probably remember the happiest she's ever been.
Really? That's a vaunted description. What was Hestia's happiest time? What was the happiest thing that Hestia has ever experienced?
She remembers being about 10 years old, and she had been begging her parents to let her get a dog for, it seemed like, months. And they kept saying no, they kept saying no, they kept saying no. And then one day her dad came to pick her up from school early, and because she was so, advanced in her learning, it was kind of like well, you've done really good with your grades this month, so we're going to take you out for something. And riding in the car, she kept asking her father, where are we going, Daddy? Where are we going? And he wouldn't tell her until they pulled up at the Humane Society. And it was like this, oh my God, it's happening feeling. And they went in, and she got to meet and play with all the different dogs. And then for those few moments, it was just like everything in her life was perfect. And she got to pick the dog she wanted. But of course, Humane Society, she doesn't get to take it home that day. They do all these paperwork and things like that. But for that moment, she's holding this little fluffy thing in her arms. And nothing could go wrong in her world after that.
Experiencing that moment again, actually receiving the endorphin release, actually receiving the oxytocin, not the memory of it, not the facsimile that is currently Heshia's life. Where would that place her mentally?
Probably in a pretty deep state of what the actual fuck, and awe. There's that. This doesn't feel real, but it feels real. And she's questioning it, but at the same time, she doesn't want to question too hard because she doesn't want it to go away. She's scared that it'll be taken away if she questions it too much.
Tizzy, Bill, having been on the inside of whatever it is that Hestia is experiencing, whatever it was that they individually experienced, watching it happen to Hestia, where does that place them? Considering they are aware as to what each of them individually experienced. Neither talked about what happened, but having those feelings, having those connected emotions, watching that slack-jawed look of bliss fall over Hestia, knowing that there's danger without or outside or just beyond when you leave, where does that place you on?
For Bill, it's kind of bittersweet in the sense that that feeling of emotions, raw emotions, more than the hunger that's always consuming him. It's something that he appreciates, but at the same time, he probably feels remorse in the sense that it's only a moment, almost like coming down from a high, and now he has to do something horrible to get out of the place. And at the same time, he's licking his lips, thinking when he can come back and do it again.
I see. It's a lot to process. And Dizzy, having been there.
She is probably, since she had a negative there, she's probably really not thinking about it. She's just keeping her head on a swivel since everyone else is imbibing.
I think we lost the storyteller.
Storyteller, I can't hear you if you're talking right now. Can anyone hear me?
Yes. I think Discord's being
Discord very much is being less than appreciable. It locked me out, so I had to join on my phone. Sorry about that, folks. Dizzy, I was asking your take on that moment, the absence of everything, that peace, that calm, watching it fall over Hestia. Where does that place her mentally?
She's just trying not to think about it right now. She'll process it later on her own, like she does with most things, and then she's just kind of keeping her head on a swivel since she's now the designated driver and everyone else is imbibing, making sure that no threat is currently sneaking up on them.
Oh no threat is actively sneaking up on them. What happens outside, or maybe as they're travailing the walk home, is another matter entirely. In the here and now, it is very easy to understand why people would keep coming back, why people would keep visiting, why people would fall into here looking for that release, no matter how temporary. Lucio, knowing or surmising what he has and what they may have to face on the way home, where does that place him in regards to the whole of it all?
Part of him is a little disappointed that he doesn't get to experience what everyone else did, but another part of him is also wondering if maybe it's for the better after seeing how out of it Dizzy was. And his thoughts kind of drift towards his family, the thing that he still has, that he is able to say with certainty that he can still enjoy, and he wonders if perhaps that is the thing that he is meant to latch onto that Forcipules warned him about. that his family is the source of his happiness that he should be defending and holding on to.
And as you watch Hestia comes back to herself, and everyone is lightly and loosely skimming their deeper thoughts, there is still the walk home you all have to come to grips with, because as late as they may be open, there is still the very real fact you all need a place to die for the day.
Well, everyone, dawn's coming soon. Where should we head?
Out of character, I think everyone but Lucio has celerity, right?
This is true.
Bill tells them, well, we have the quick way, the shouty way, or the bloody way. I'm fine with whatever.
Are they still out there?
I don't know, but we have to assume that they are somewhere around here.
Well, I always have a way to hide myself, and I know you three are a bit faster than I am. Alternatively, we could ask for Arsenio or maybe Vivi to come and get us.
I don't want to get either one of them hurt. I mean, granted, they are a little more resilient than they used to be, but the shit still hurts.
So I think we should just see if they're out there or not. Just like a quick peek out the window.
There are 4 of us. 2 to the front, 2 to the back. Lucio could come with me because you can't speed away like the rest of them can, or the rest of us can. I have mesmerize, a way to catch their attention, so it might give the other 2 time to kind of get away, and then we can cut out if they go out the back and run.
Say no more. Shall we, milady? Who puts his arm towards Dizzy.
If there's only one out the back, perhaps you could mindfuck him and just walk by without him saying anything. I can go out the front for a distraction.
I was gonna say, since they saw you and talked to you, I think maybe you, Hess, and Bill would go out the back, and then me and Dizzy go out the front.
Okay, that works too.
So plans settled into place, and almost as if you were speaking to the whole of the gathered, people begin gathering the coats, tossing down money, but it's not just bills. You see bits and pieces of this and that. You can swear that there's an old photo on that table that couple just laid there over top of a few dollars. Clearly not enough for the amount of food that's on their table. And then the waitress, having come through the back, is standing at your table. I do hope that everything was to your liking. Amilaki is very particular. Did you enjoy what you received?
What most memorable?
Hestia, who probably only barely managed to not cry, kind of just nods her head. Yeah.
That will make Amilaki very, very proud. I'm Tereti. I'm glad that you enjoyed. We normally ensure that our guests have a path where they need. If you'll see Samuel there, he is a cab driver and will take you where you need this time.
I suppose that would make things infinitely more easier. What do you guys think?
But we have to decide once we get in, are we taking them back towards the shelter or are we going somewhere else? Because that's an issue. If we take them back, we have home field advantage, yeah, but at the same time, we're putting the people at the shelter in danger.
Do you think they'll actually pursue?
They were very
Depends.
aggressive when they thought they had the upper hand. So yeah, I think the best way is to go around and then find a different place to spend the morning.
So as you all trundle out towards Samuel's vehicle, you're expecting a Subaru or a Honda or maybe even a Sonata. Something newer, something mildly a little larger body, maybe a nice new sedan from either Kia or Hyundai. But instead, you walk out to the kitschiest throwback cab you have ever seen. It is the old 1950s huge car, which is designed for the sole purpose of moving people. It is the sort of vehicle that you've seen in, well, Hessian's seen up close and personal throughout most of her earlier few decades. But those of you outside of Bill born in this century, or within the last century, it is an antique. It is a unreal ideal of a vehicle that should not be on the road. It's clean. It's clearly been washed recently and waxed, but they don't make cars, let alone cabs, like this anymore.
Well, Bill says, yeah, I do believe that you've been very gracious with the food and with your hosting. So hopefully I can come back and pay you a longer visit. Then he starts walking towards the cab.
The vehicle is old enough and the paint job is old enough that it is pre the yellow and checker separation. It is a yellow checker cab, which doesn't exist and has not existed in Chicago since the late 1920s. Back before the taxi driver war, before there were drive-bys in the street, before it became a social outcry for the violence of the hood. Back when cab drivers would sabotage each other at the cab stands, as well as on the road. Stepping into the cab, Samuel finally began to speak. Amilaki was very, very to the point that I am to show you all safely. Where are we going?
Well, my haven is somewhat guarded, so if you want to spend the day there, just don't mind the smells.
Dizzy, did you want us to drop you off at Loyola?
Yeah, if you don't mind, unless we're doing a communal thing at Bill's secret lair.
No, I just want to make sure that they don't come back to the shelter right away. And if we kind of split up a little bit, then they're going to be confused as to where to go.
I've been building some insulation there around mine, so I should be fine there.
Well, with the plan all set, Samuel displays why it is important for cab drivers, well, at least it used to be before Uber and Lyft, to pass their public chauffeur's license. He manipulates and navigates the streets as if he was born to them, as if every nook and cranny, hidden alley and thoroughfare were carved onto his soul. He is able to navigate the much unknown path behind the condos on the lake, taking that access path down and around through effectively bicycling the campus there at the Loyola stop and dropping you at the farthest edge where you are closer to where you need to be. But anyone not attending Loyola for more than 3 years would know how to get to. You are not amazed, well, maybe potentially a little impressed. And if that wasn't bad enough, he manages to navigate the streets, avoiding all of the late night traffic as everyone takes the major thoroughfares through side streets and cutting over Buena and using Vista to cut down and around what looks like it's the dead end right there at the train. Is actually an egress through a viaduct that most people don't realize is open, and before you know it, all of our good little kindred have arrived at their various havens without having caught the attention of others who are still watching for their path and where they might head off to. As everyone exits the cab, Samuel hands a card to each. Simply says Samuel and a phone number. On the back side is a very poorly stenciled silhouette of a cab. And just in case you need a ride later, I need off like a light. And as everyone heads into their individual havens to die for the day and set plans for later in the week for themselves and what lay ahead, I want to thank you all for a lovely session. I look forward to seeing you all here next week. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.
Night all.